You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed-sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed-sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
And away we go, episode 1114 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Friday, July 18th, 2025. It is the day on which we are returning home from the beach, Fenwick Island, Delaware. Very nice place. And I want you to know that for sound purposes, for the good of the podcast, I did Thursday's show, and I am doing this show in a closet. Yes, I am recording this in a closet. I am coming to you right now from a closet. This is what I do for you for this show. And after this show, I shall be coming out of the closet. So there you go. But this also is the day on which rookies report for 2025 Commanders training camp. And the Commanders will go into camp with all of their picks in the 2025 NFL Draft having been signed. We on Thursday afternoon had reports that the team had agreed on a contract with cornerback Trey Amos, who the team took out of Ole Miss in the second round. But yeah, man, the Commanders offseason is over. Training camp is getting going. Now, veterans do not report for 2025 Commanders training camp until this Tuesday, July 22nd. But among those veterans will be a new acquisition. Edge defender Von Miller. We late night on Wednesday night had the breaking news that Miller was signing with the Commanders a reported one-year contract. Is he a solution for the team at edge defender? No, not at this point in his career. But can he still play? Absolutely. I am a big fan of this signing. Next segment, analysis of why this is a good signing, including some key advanced stats. Here's just a sampling. Von Miller for the 2024 regular season, what was his age 35 season. Among all players, each with at least 150 pass rushes, recorded the quickest pass rush get-off time in the NFL per the NFL's next-gen stats at 0.69 seconds. Yes, age 35 season, quickest pass rush get-off time in the NFL. Von Miller can still go, and our team now has him. Hello and welcome to this Friday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. This has been a big last few days for star edge defenders in the NFL. We on Thursday afternoon had reports that the Pittsburgh Steelers and edge defender TJ Watt had agreed on a mega money contract extension, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. What about a contract extension between the Commanders and receiver Terry McLaurin? Well, we're still waiting on that. Later in the show, I'll speak with Barry Svrluga, columnist for the Washington Post. He just wrote a good column about the Terry McLaurin situation. Barry will explain why he believes that the team and McLaurin will ultimately agree on an extension, why the Commanders need to strike a deal, whether McLaurin is Washington's best receiver this century, and more. And we also, with Barry, will discuss the Nationals opening for a head of baseball operations, including whether the job is attractive given the concerns with the Lerner ownership group. what was behind interim general manager Mike DeBartolo talking up a new day for the Nats in terms of analytics, whether DeBartolo would be allowed to trade starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore before the 2025 MLB Trade Deadline, and whether the Nats rebuild is salvageable. The great Barry Svrluga coming up later in the show. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Feedback on the stalled contract extension negotiations between the Commanders and Terry McLaurin. We on Thursday's show, episode 1113, talked at length about the situation. Email from Murph, writes Murph, as you have said many times, today's overpay is tomorrow's great deal. Still listening. Thank you for that email, Murph. Well, the saying is today's overpay is tomorrow's bargain, but Murph gets the idea. Yeah, I would have no problem with the Commanders signing McLaurin to a 3-year contract extension with an average annual value and AAV of $30 million to $33 million. He's under contract for this coming season, his age 30 season. A 3-year extension would take him through his age 33 season. McLaurin does profile as a receiver who will age well. No guarantees, but he profiles as a receiver who will age well. And if he does age well, an AAV of $30 million to $33 million for him is going to look better and better as time goes on because the NFL salary cap is soaring. A $30 million AAV today will be a much lower percentage of the cap just 2 years from now. Email from Redskins fan, writes Redskins fan, hey Al, the team still has Terry for another year. Do the deal, and if it doesn't work out, then renegotiate or cut him. The team should stop dragging its feet. A deal is going to be a steal of a deal down the road. Thank you for the email, Redskins fan. Again, today's overpay is tomorrow's bargain. An additional thing to consider regarding what the thinking from general manager Adam Peters might be in these contract extension talks is that maybe this is just Peters' style. That he moves slowly and deliberately and doesn't jump right into doing a big money contract extension. After all, the team did not announce its multi-year contract extension with right guard Samuel Cosmi until last September 4th. Peters did not rush to get that extension done. Maybe he's employing a similar approach with McLaurin. Email from Dave in Israel, writes Dave. Dear Al, regarding the ongoing Terry McLaurin saga, I think that most fans and most commentators are saying to just pay the guy and make everyone happy. Makes sense to everyone except Adam Peters. But remember who the expert in the room is. Peters has been doing this for a long time with a lot of success. Basically, I believe this comes down to one magic number, 30. I won't bore you with the data, but it is pretty clear that receivers drop off after the age of 30. There are numerous examples and very few examples of outliers, almost none, and many examples of teams giving big money extensions to older receivers being praised in the moment and then being criticized 2 years down the road when the player did not pan out and the team is still paying the tab. If the Skins simply do nothing, they have Terry under contract for this year, and they can tag him 2 times. That's my logic from the GM's perspective. What say you, Al? Thank you for the email, Dave. I have wondered about this. If Adam Peters' thinking is, rather than commit to Terry McLaurin long-term as he's entering his age 30 season, let's play this year by year. He's under contract for the 2025 season, and then we could franchise tag him for the 2026 season, and then franchise tag him again for the 2027 season. The benefit of going year to year with a player, of course, is that you're not locked into some long-term big money contract that could become onerous. The problem with this approach is that franchise tagging a player for back-to-back seasons becomes rather expensive, as we learned with 2 players who our team did franchise tag in back-to-back off seasons in you-know-who and right guard Brandon Sheriff.
Brandon Sheriff.
Yes, exactly. Brandon Scherf. Thank you, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. Hey, congratulations to our friend Chris Nace, lead attorney for the Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. Chris has been named a 2025 Law Dragon 500 leading plaintiff consumer lawyer. His dedication to justice and client advocacy continues to make a real impact. Also, a congrats to Samantha Peters of the Nace Law Group. She was recently elected to the Board of Governors of the Trial Lawyers Association of Metropolitan Washington, D.C. Founded in 1979, the Nace Law Group is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group accident and injury lawyers and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C. injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group is outstanding. Chris Nace and the rest of the team do excellent work. They will fight for you and your family. They can help you and your family make difficult decisions. The Nace Law Group has recovered millions of dollars for the sick and injured. If you have a case, contact the Nace Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C. injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or Washington, D.C. injurylawyers.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. Hey, if you happen to be listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can write a review of the podcast saying that you like it. The review can be just a sentence or two, but the reviews do help out the podcast a lot. Thank you for doing them. Consider the many acquisitions in terms of big-name veterans by the Commanders since Adam Peters became the team's general manager in January 2024. Linebacker Bobby Wagner, tight end Zach Ertz, running back Austin Eckler, cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, left tackle Laramie Tunsil, receiver Deebo Samuel Sr., and now edge defender Von Miller. Our team has become the destination for big-name veteran players in the NFL. We late night on Wednesday night had the breaking news that unrestricted free agent edge defender Von Miller was signing with the Commanders, a reported one-year contract. He confirmed the news with a post on X late night on Wednesday night. Von Miller entering his age 36 season, but he can still play. Miller had a good 2024 season. Miller in the 2024 regular season had 6 sacks despite playing on just 25.27% of the Buffalo Bills defensive snaps. Miller for the 2024 regular season had an overall grade per Pro Football Focus of 82.4. That's very good. PFF grades are on a scale of 0 to 100. 60 is average. Miller for the 2024 regular season was number 10 among all qualified NFL edge defenders in pass rush win percentage per PFF at 17.6. Is he an every down player? No. Is he a play on 100% of your team's defensive snaps player? No. But is he a situational pass rusher who can still be very effective? Yes. And the Commanders aren't exactly loaded with obvious quality pass rushers. So I like this signing. A one-year contract for Von Miller is a no-risk, smart move. And the Commanders have familiarity with Miller. He was taken by the Denver Broncos out of Texas A&M with the number 2 overall pick in the 2011 NFL Draft. Commanders general manager Adam Peters worked for the Broncos for 8 seasons, 2009 through 2016. He was a regional scout for the Broncos for the 2009 and 2010 seasons, was a national scout for the Broncos for the 2011 through 2013 seasons, was the team's assistant director of college scouting for the 2014 and 2015 seasons, and was the team's director of college scouting for the 2016 season. So Adam Peters knows Von Miller quite well. Miller, like Bobby Wagner, a future member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Miller was with the Broncos April 2011 to November 2021 when he was traded to the Los Angeles Rams. He in March 2022 signed with the Buffalo Bills as an unrestricted free agent, played for him for the 2022 through 2024 seasons, then was released by the Bills this past March. Von Miller is number 16 in NFL history in regular season sacks at 129 and a half. Sacks became an official NFL stat starting with the 1982 season. Now, Miller has missed some time in recent seasons. Miller, over 3 seasons with the Bills, played in just 36 of a possible 51 regular season games. He, in December 2022, underwent season-ending surgery for an ACL injury in his right knee. And Miller, in October 2024, served a 4-game suspension. The NFL on October 1st, 2024, announced that Miller had been suspended 4 games without pay for violating the league's personal conduct policy. And the suspension appeared to stem from Miller allegedly having assaulted his pregnant girlfriend in November 2023 in suburban Dallas during the Bills' bye week. Miller turned himself into police on November 30th, 2024 on an arrest warrant for a charge of third-degree felony assault of a pregnant woman. He was booked into a jail that afternoon before being released on $5,000 bond. Now, no charges were ever filed, but an affidavit obtained by ESPN in 2023 detailed that the allegations against Miller included him putting a hand and later both hands on the woman's neck for about 3 to 5 seconds, pulling her hair and trying to shove her while she was attempting to gather her things and leave after he told her to get out of the apartment in which they lived. You never know what is true and what isn't with this stuff. I will say this, though. I find it almost funny that whereas you had some Commanders fans and some media members kicking and screaming for the team to release kicker Brandon McManus last offseason off an allegation that ended up going nowhere, you're not hearing one peep about the team now signing someone who allegedly assaulted his pregnant girlfriend in November 2023. Now, do I personally have a problem with the Commanders signing Von Miller? No, I don't. The matter is closed. No charges were filed, and he served his suspension. But there's an inconsistency to being all high and mighty with Brandon McManus and then saying nothing about Von Miller. To me, I don't know how you get around that. So I kind of laugh at that. Like, if you were kicking and screaming for the team to release McManus last offseason, then you better be saying something about Von Miller with the team now signing him here. But again, I don't have a problem with the team signing Von Miller. And I would add this, that Adam Peters knows Von Miller well suggests that Peters has a good handle on what did and did not happen in November 2023. Now, regarding the age of Von Miller, so like I said, he's entering his age 36 season. He's old for an NFL player. I mean, think about this. Miller, as mentioned, was taken with the number 2 overall pick in the 2011 NFL draft. The Redskins in the 2011 NFL draft took edge defender Ryan Kerrigan with the number 16 overall pick. His last NFL season was the 2021 season. We're going into the 2025 season, and Miller is still playing and will have Kerrigan as a coach. Kerrigan is the Commanders' assistant linebackers coach / pass rush specialist. That's pretty funny that Kerrigan will be coaching Miller. The Commanders are projected to be one of the oldest teams in the NFL, if not the oldest team in the NFL for this coming season. Obviously, initial 53-man rosters for the 2025 season are far from set, but once they are set, it may well be that the Commanders are the oldest team in the NFL, and having guys like Von Miller and Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz and punter Tressway, etc. I would say this to that. The Commanders having a lot of older players is not ideal, but it is understandable. The Commanders having a lot of older players is in large part a function of the team's 4 years of not-so-good drafts with Ron Rivera as head coach in charge of player personnel, to say nothing of the team's bad drafting before then. And the Commanders having a lot of older players is in large part a function of the team now being in win-now mode due to quarterback Jaden Daniels being so good. It is not Adam Peters' team-building philosophy to be old, okay? Like, his goal is not to have the oldest team in the NFL. The team being old is due to years of bad drafts and the team now being in win-now mode. The average age of players on the team will come down as Peters accumulates more draft classes as Commanders GM. Also, the Commanders under Peters and head coach Dan Quinn take care of older players. See Zach Ertz last season. So if you're worried about the team being old, I get the worry, but there is some important context here. Well, the MLB All-Star break ends on Friday. Washington and Baltimore may have disappointing records, but you still can put your knowledge of our teams and others to work for you on Prize Picks, which is offering free cash to listeners of this podcast. Download the Prize Picks app and use the promo code Galdi, my last name, Galdi. You do that, you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Yeah, you get $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks Pick'em is available in Virginia and Washington, D.C. You just pick more or less on players in various statistical categories like RBI or strikeouts. And Prize Pick Streak has arrived in Maryland. You make a free daily pick. Just choose more or less on one featured player projection each day and build your streak by winning for 2 or more days. Each correct pick grows your streak. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Prize Picks is the best daily fantasy sports app, and Prize Picks is offering a special deal to listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Download the Prize Picks app and use the promo code Galdi, my last name, Galdi. You do that, you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks is awesome. I've used it. It's a ton of fun. It's easy to use. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your opinions into real money on Prize Picks. And take advantage of what Prize Picks is offering to listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Download the Prize Picks app, use the promo code Galdi, and you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, and maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today? There's over a dozen languages available to learn at your own pace so you can achieve your goals with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm finally learning French after taking classes in high school and thrilled to finish what I'd started years ago. And my favorite part about Babbel is that it's dialogue-based. It helps me to actually practice conversations, and the speech recognition ensures I'm saying words correct them all. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at Babbel.com/BlueWire. Get up to 55% off at Babbel.com/BlueWire, spelled BABBEL.com/BlueWire. Babbel.com/BlueWire. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Well, we on Thursday's show, episode 1113, went in-depth on the stalled contract extension negotiations between the Commanders and receiver Terry McLaurin, who, in a session with reporters on Tuesday afternoon, sounded off on his frustration with the negotiations. For perspective on what's going on between the team and McLaurin, and also for great insight on the Nationals, given the opening to run their baseball operations, it is a pleasure to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast, Barry Svrluga, columnist for the Washington Post. He on Wednesday came out with a column headline, quote, "Terry McLaurin set a standard. Take care of him, Commanders," end quote. You could follow Barry on X at Barry Svrluga. Hey, Barry, how are you?
Great, Al. Thanks for having me.
Off hearing what Terry McLaurin said on Tuesday afternoon, off analyzing the situation for your column, what do you think happens here? Do you think that the Commanders and McLaurin will in fact agree on a contract extension at some point before the start of the 2025 regular season?
Do, Al. I mean, I think these things often come down to the wire, and Adam Peters is certainly familiar with a bunch of similar situations from his time in San Francisco. He wouldn't have been the point person handling it, but he knows how these things work. And I'm kind of assuming that Terry McLaurin's asks here are reasonable and measured, and that he's not saying, look, I deserve Jamar Chase money, I deserve Justin Jefferson money, but it's somewhere in the 27, 28-ish million dollars a year range. And I also am assuming that he's not asking as a guy who's going to turn 30 in September for something that's like 5 years. I think because he has been such a model citizen, a productive player, a prepared player, an available player, and such a reasonable voice, I'm just assuming that his asks are reasonable. And if that's the case, given what Adam Peters said in February at the NFL meetings, calling Terry like essentially a model pro, a great player who actually got better as a player and a leader over the course of that season, it seems like there's a lot of respect there. The disturbing part that McLaurin said, I think, was, look, we haven't talked in about a month. I'm not sure the details of that, and that gives a little bit of pause, but I'd be shocked if they opened the season in September and number 17 wasn't not only in the game, but had probably been in camp for a long time.
Why do you think that the Commanders and Terry McLaurin have not yet agreed on a contract extension?
I will find it fascinating, assuming a deal gets done, to ask some of those questions. Like, is it a stylistic thing and we can expect this going forward? Because this, as I wrote in my column, like, this is really, these are the first headwinds, the first headache of the Peters, Dan Quinn regime. And, you know, if it is his style, Adam Peters' style, to let these things play out a little bit and get it down to where both sides feel some pressure to get a deal, it'd be great to know that going forward, because, you know, we'll be here in next July or in a few Julys wondering this about a different player. And it would be nice to have that history of like, oh, no, this is just how Peters does it. We don't know that yet because he's still on the relatively new side. And then the other question is that what we don't know, like, if it's a term thing, if it's like Terry McLaurin is asking as he approaches 30 for 5 years or something like that, or even 4 could be a sticking point, particularly if it's, you know, added on to the contract that he currently is playing out. Then I get it. Like, your NFL contracts can be structured a million different ways, and it really should be like, what's the guarantee, both in time and in dollars. But I could see there being a sticking point there, because Terry can legitimately say, look, before you got here, when times were really, really bad, I did my best to set a tone of professionalism and preparedness in this locker room, and I'm continuing to do that. And I can be part of a solution that helps you attract people here by saying, look, they take care of you, man, not just contractually, but they take care of us as people. They take care of our families. Like, this is a place you want to be. It's so fragile to me to want to upset that over, a few dollars at a time when your salary, your cap is not dominated by a quarterback who makes $50 or $60 million.
Regarding what you were just talking about, so Terry McLaurin in his comments on Tuesday afternoon indicated that his value isn't just about what he does on the field. The value also is about him off the field. And there is no doubt that he, during the dark times for the team in recent years, was a bright light, a leader, a positive influence, a very good representative for the team. But if you are Commanders general manager Adam Peters, that stuff, while laudable, was about the environment with the team before you became its GM and isn't a thing moving forward. From Peter's perspective, to what extent is it appropriate for him to compensate McLaurin for services rendered regarding something that's no longer the case?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but I think if you're Terry McLaurin, you can say, and now that the culture is better, I'm part of the reason why it's better, and I'm still a standard setter, and we have a way collectively that you guys have helped us build, that this is the way we go about our business, and I'm going to be a person, a leader, to show people that regardless of what happened when Bruce Allen and Jay Gruden and Ron Rivera and all the mayhem was here, I'm going to continue to be that standard bearer. And I also think he can say, I understand that in general, receivers in their 30s will, go down in production. He is coming off arguably the best season of his career, particularly because of the 13 touchdowns. He's never had anything approaching that. That's with inarguably the best quarterback that he's ever played with. There's reasons to believe that that connection will continue to grow going forward. This is going to be the first season that Terry McLaurin enters with the same starting quarterback as he had the previous season in his career. That I would think he could argue, I'm not going to get less productive. I'm going to get more productive. So I think you can put aside your issue of like, yeah, that Adam Peters, that wasn't my issue. You did a great job, but that's not my what's in front of me. And McLaurin can spin it back and say, but what is in front of you is something that I'm a really big part of, and you have identified qualities that you want in a commander. I bring all of those to the table, and you know that.
The nature of Terry McLaurin's session with reporters on Tuesday afternoon, this clearly was an orchestrated occurrence. I mean, this was not some NFL-mandated press conference. This was a media avail that was done after a commercial shoot. He, of course, knew that he'd be asked about the contract extension talks a bunch, and he sounded off in a way the likes of which we had never heard him sound off. Now, I thought that he came off pretty well, but from a public relations standpoint, from a strategic standpoint, what'd you make of what he did?
Al, in a world where like guys can send cryptic messages on Instagram about what they're upset about or stuff, I just much prefer a very measured. I don't have total control here because you people ask the questions, but I want you to know that it's been frustrating and I want to be here. I've made my life here. This is important to me. He didn't say, I'm close to demanding a trade. I thought it was, I just think this guy is really thoughtful, whatever the topic is. And this is off base, but if you have like a really good football question, like how do you guys practice this? Or when you're running a route and Jaden's scrambling, like how do you adjust? Like he's just super thoughtful and smart, and if he's engaged and thinks and respects the line of thinking, he's just really thoughtful. And I think this was an extension of that, just applying to his contract situation. He didn't really divulge anything that was like the real particulars. I don't think he threw the team under the bus. I think he was kind of honest about his frustrations without being over the top about them. So I had no issue with it. Yes, it was orchestrated, but I think he felt like, look, it's time for me to get my side out there. And if I were the team, like it's not something that would have like rankled me in a real way.
You were hired by the Washington Post in 2003. The best Washington receivers since 2000 have been Santana Moss, Pierre Garcon, Deshaun Jackson, and Terry McLaurin. Is McLaurin the team's best receiver this century?
That's the group, and I think they're a little bit different because I don't think Terry is the downfield. Don't get me wrong, he's had plenty of downfield catches, but like Deshaun could get downfield, right? Like that was and Santana could too. But I mean, take Santana as an example. Like he was here through a lot of terribleness. He had the good Gibbs stuff, but then Jim Zorn and into Shanahan. He was the same kind of professional, like very prepared. And one thing about Terry, like he hasn't missed a game since 2000. No receiver has played more games because he couldn't have possibly played more games, regular season games, because he's played 17 each of the last four years. Like availability is a tool, and I think that put him up against Deebo Samuel in that way. Like Terry that's not an accident. He puts the work in to make sure his body is ready. That's kind of a winding path to, do I want to say Terry is the best receiver in Washington since the turn of the century? I think I probably do. Maybe there's some recency bias, but I just seeing him in year one with Jaden Daniels makes me think that year two could be as good.
Much more with Barry Svrluga in moments. Are you looking to upgrade the heart of your home, whether it's time to repair your gas fireplace, modernize your hearth, or simply add more comfort and style, Nova Fireplace and Stove is Northern Virginia's go-to expert for heat, safety, and home transformation. Nova Fireplace and Stove is a family-owned, fully licensed, and insured company with over-the-top credentials, gas and electrical master's licenses, a Class A contractor's license, and a long list of 5-star reviews to back all of this up. Nova Fireplace and Stove has a beautiful showroom in Woodbridge, Virginia. That's where your dream fireplace begins. Come in and see Nova Fireplace and Stove's stunning displays, including custom fireplace glass doors and stone refacing options that can completely transform the look of your fireplace. From sleek and modern to rustic and cozy, Nova Fireplace and Stove has something for every style. And here's what else Nova Fireplace and Stove offers: gas fireplace service and repair, chimney cleaning and brickwork repair, generator installation, panel replacements and water heater repairs, smoke detectors, security lights, and more. Every job includes a free in-home estimate, and for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast, Nova Fireplace and Stove is offering $25 off any service. Just mention this ad. Nova Fireplace and Stove only works in Northern Virginia and thus knows the homes, the codes, and the people. Your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed because Nova Fireplace and Stove takes pride in every flame that is lit and every customer who is served. So stop by the showroom, see what's possible, and let Nova Fireplace and Stove help you bring warmth, safety, and style to your space. You can also visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com. Nova Fireplace and Stove, where comfort meets craftsmanship and your fireplace becomes the heart of your home. We're talking with Barry Svrluga, columnist for the Washington Post. So the MLB All-Star break ends on Friday. The Nationals will begin the post-All-Star break portion of their season with a 6-game homestand beginning with a 3-game series against the San Diego Padres at Nationals Park. The Nats, of course, are in the midst of a really disappointing season. They end MLB's 2025 regular season, have the second worst record in the National League, 38-58, and have the second worst run differential in the NL, -102. And we already have had big-time change, right? Nats managing principal owner Mark Lerner on July 6th announced having fired president of baseball operations and general manager Mike Rizzo and manager Davey Martinez. You on Thursday morning came out with an analysis piece for the Washington Post. Headline, quote, "The Nats need a president of baseball operations. Here are some options," end quote. You spent the previous week or so asking MLB executives and agents about potential candidates to run Nats baseball ops. What kind of sense did you get for how attractive the Nats head of baseball ops job is, given the concerns with the Lerner ownership group?
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting point, and is probably a column I'll write coming up, because there are some of the candidates that are mentioned there. These are all people that came up in multiple spots. Like, so I feel like it's a reported list, like not just pulled out of thin air. But some people did say, I don't know if he would want to leave for that opportunity. He has a really good gig here. Yeah, and I'm thinking about somebody like Jeff Greenberg in Detroit, who works under Scott Harris, has a history with the Cubs, and is, Detroit is a really well-run operation at the moment. So there's a desire to get under the hood and see how that works. But I think I've said from the start, Al, that any of these interviews, assuming the Lerners have people in to interview for the top baseball operations job, have to be interviews both ways. Like, yes, the Lerners will say, what qualities do you bring? What's your vision for a front office? How would you run things? And then the questions have to be just as hard, and maybe harder the other way. How would you fund a modernized front office? What would your payroll be? What's your investment commitment in the minor leagues, in player development, in scouting, in analysis, in technology? So I think anybody has a lot of, this is not like being offered the Dodgers job. Like, you would have to come in and interview ownership. And that's true for anybody on this list, including Mike DeBartolo, who knows the situation from the inside better than anybody.
I really liked what Nats interim general manager Mike DeBartolo had to say in his session with reporters on July 8th. Quote, "Simply stepping up our game is not enough. We need real change. I'm excited to bring a fresh approach, a fresh voice to this role, and integrate more data, more technology, more innovation into our decision-making across the organization at all levels, and hopefully improve the performance of our players as well." End quote. The Nats for years have been in dire need of being more in on analytics, and the team has fallen way behind in the information arms race in MLB. You were there when DeBartolo said what he said. Is your sense that he said that as just an expression of his own personal vision, or that he said that off having been told by the Lerner family that the team now is going to focus more on and invest more in analytics?
I think it's coming from the bottom of Mike DeBartolo's heart and the full cerebrum of his brain. Like I think he believes that, and it was striking that was part of his opening statement. This is a really smart, thoughtful guy who has not been in a forward-facing role before. So this is a big moment for him because he's not used to. He knows these reporters. I know him. He's around. He's been part of that front office for so long, but it's a much different thing when you're in the big chair and it's your vision you're trying to articulate. And I thought he was really clear about it. And that those statements came after a pretty opening, heartfelt thanks to Mike Rizzo, who gave him a shot, and Davey Martinez, who helped the whole group, win a World Series. So I thought he did a really good job there. And I think his words were not empty. Like, this wasn't just like, okay, I'm taking the reins, I'm not sure what's going to happen here. It's like, okay, I get to say what I really feel, and I don't think that was anything from ownership. It was, if I, Mike DeBartolo, am running this thing, here's how I'm going to run it, and eventually this is what I'm going to need.
The 2025 MLB Trade Deadline is on July 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern. The Nats clearly will be sellers. The question is, how far will/should the Nats go as sellers? Starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore is having a breakout season, but he's only under team control through the 2027 season. He's at the same point contractually that outfielder Juan Soto was at when the Nats traded him in 2022. Do you think that Mike DeBartolo, as interim GM, has the autonomy to trade Gore if DeBartolo thinks that doing so is the right move?
I think it's honestly an ownership question, because for a couple reasons, and we all know that MacKenzie Gore is in his 4+ years of service time. That's the service timeline that Juan Soto was traded at. Any buyer of MacKenzie Gore would potentially have him for 3 postseasons. His value will never be higher, and you think about trading him because his value would never be higher, and because this team is on like a 66 win pace. And does that translate to really being able to be a true contender in 2026 and 27, his last 2 years of control? So it's a complex thing, but I do think the weight of trading your all-star lefty who's really having a breakout season and could be part of the solution is a lot to put on an interim guy. Gore would still have value this offseason if the permanent GM thinks it's the right thing to spin him. He'd be available for 2 postseasons, 2 full seasons, and he'd have value at the next trade deadline, depending on where they went with payroll, what the roster looked like. Are they sellers again? I think that Mike DeBartolo should listen to offers, but I think those offers would be taken to ownership and ask, I can get this in return. This is how this would set us up in the future. Are you, Mark Lerner and company, in on this or not?
I think that the most interesting thing for whoever is the Nats' next head of baseball operations is what that person thinks of the team's rebuild. Is the rebuild a failure, meaning that the Nats need to start the rebuild over? Or is the rebuild salvageable, considering that the Nats, even in this bad season, do have 3 foundational pieces in left fielder James Wood, shortstop C.J. Abrams, and starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore, all having good seasons? In which direction do you lean with the rebuild? A failure or salvageable?
I think I'm on the slightly salvageable side, because I think you have 3 pieces. Abrams didn't make the all-star team, but 3 all-star caliber pieces there. And honestly, there are people who are like, the high-endness of those 3 is hard to match in the game in terms of young, controllable talent. Now, the clock is ticking on all of them, right? Like you're going to get closer to bigger numbers in arbitration and eventually free agency, quickest for Gore, but then Abrams and Wood. But I think that In the minor leagues, there's some promising pitching on the way, and Travis Sikora, Alex Clemmie, some other pieces down there. I think a new leader would have to declare catcher an absolute need, because Keibert Ruiz he's had the reps, he's had the chances, he got the contract. It's not working out. He's one of the worst catchers, both offensively and defensively in the game. We're going to learn more about what Dylan Cruz is, but I think you put him in the bucket of part of the solution, not part of the problem, more likely. I think Jake Irvin is in the part of the solution, not part of the problem, probably as a back of the rotation starter. So I don't think the cupboard is like completely bare. And I think somebody coming in, if you get commitment from ownership, not just to invest in major league payroll, but to invest in infrastructure, I think it could be a pretty attractive job in which you say, okay, this is a minor, we're rebooting a little bit because the people who put the original reboot aren't here anymore. And I'm talking about Mike Rizzo. I think there was a little bit of a disconnect between what Rizzo and Davey saw as the progression of the team and what they presented as the progression of the team. Hey, we want to play meaningful games in September, and where they were in reality. So that's a long-winded way of saying is, like, I don't think it's a complete disaster, but I do think play at the major league level this year showed that it's not just as easy as adding a big bat in the offseason and here we go, we're a contender. Like, there's enough holes that's going to take multiple fixes.
Barry Svrluga, columnist for the Washington Post. Barry, thanks. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Al. I really appreciate it.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, and maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today? There's over a dozen languages available to learn at your own pace, so you can achieve your goals with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm finally learning French after taking classes in high school and thrilled to finish what I'd started years ago. And my favorite part about Babbel is that it's dialogue-based. It helps me to actually practice conversations, and the speech recognition ensures I'm saying words, correct them all. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/BlueWire. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/BlueWire, spelled BABBEL.com/BlueWire. Babbel.com/BlueWire. Rules and restrictions may apply.
And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Monday show, episode 1115. We'll have a lot for you on the Commanders. Also on Monday show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats this weekend of a 3-game series against the San Diego Padres at Nationals Park. The O's this weekend of a 3-game series at the Tampa Bay Rays. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday.
Brandon Scherf.